In this video, I'm going to discuss why it's a good idea to have multiple pastures for your goats to graze in. Stay tuned to the end for rotational farming and goat fun facts. Before we get to the how or why, we have to get to the what. Rotational grazing is separating multiple pastures so that when one pasture is mowed down, you can move the animals to the next pasture. We've set aside 3 pastures: the home pasture, the west pasture, and the furthest west you can possibly go without trespassing pasture. Try to move to the next pasture after the majority of the grass is 2 to 3 inches tall. The shorter the grass, the less carbohydrates that it can produce. It takes the same amount of time for a 3-inch blade of grass to become a 6-inch piece of food as it does for a 1-inch blade to become just 2 inches tall. A second reason for rotational grazing is breaking the life cycle of infectious parasites like the barber pole. If the goats are away from their feces for a week or more, it breaks the cycle. We rotate our goats so that they stay happy and healthy. We also have another motive, and that's also mentioned as the third reason on my top reasons for homesteading with goats video. Goats love clearing land. These are before and after pictures of our goats clearing. How we rotate our grazing. This is pasture 1, the home pasture. The goats come back here every night, and in the fall and winter, goats get their hay here too. The grass here used to get pretty low and overgrazed, so that's why we started rotational grazing, and that's also why they're provided hay at the colder times of the year. This is just one corner of the west pasture where you can see the barn and the home yard. The west pasture is our biggest pasture. There are plenty of grasses, weeds, and trees for the goats to graze on. Pine trees are especially loved by the goats, particularly Pika and Rocco. This is even more of our pasture. Our goats and cows go in this pasture and they come in at night because of the predator risk. Now to pasture 3, the furthest west you can go without trespassing pasture. This is the gate that leads to the third pasture. Here's the fence that separates the second from the third pasture. The third pasture has a little creek, though it's also the most risky one as the neighbor's yard is right there and there's tons of other food in there. This is an autumn olive tree, an invasive species that's perfectly edible and goats and trees alike love it. Well, that's it. Now for our favorite ruminants fun facts. No offense to the cows, sheep, giraffes, moose, elk, water buffaloes, deer, and yaks of the world. Oh, and did I mention giraffes? Every goat herd has a herd queen. This means that she gets the best spot to eat grain, she tests new plants first, she defends the herd, and her kids are royalty by birth, being given the special treatment with feeding spots right beside her. Ours is Pika. Our herd queen tends to assert her dominance on everyone, including the cows. Anthropologists believe that goat domestication took place over 8,000 years ago. If you don't believe it in old Earth, you can bet that goats were on Noah's Ark. Speaking of biblical references, the first time goats were mentioned in the Bible was in the story of Jacob and Esau. Esau must have really loved goat. Goats can differentiate between happy and unhappy human faces, human postures, and goat calls. Goats are dichromates, which means they are green and red colorblind, and they see purple, green, and blue colors the best. Well, that brings our trek to a close. Feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe.